Hey there, sweet friends. Welcome back. I hope you are all well. Got a festive folio today to share. This has got a combination of tip-ins and pockets. And I did want to utilize this beautiful printable from my shop. And so this is the Sweetest Bokeh Christmas, and it has a soft blue background, so it works perfectly with the pattern paper that I'm choosing. And so I have added many pages here with tip-ins and then additional pages with pockets, so I can use all of those images that I want. This has a lot of room for your finishing details, so I think that you will really enjoy creating this. So stick around and we will make it together. I'm going to be using the Happy Holidays collection from Pink Fresh Studio, and I have used this collection in a couple of projects so far, and I have run out of all of the cut parts that were designed to be part of this collection. And so I was really happy to see that the blues in this really coordinated so well with the Sweetest Bokeh Christmas printable from my shop. And so I'm going to utilize a combination of the pattern papers along with my printable. And so for my printable, I am utilizing it in the size it was designed for my inserts and my tip-ins. And then I did have an additional print that is slightly smaller for the cover because I wanted to leave room for the embellishments that I want to add. So I've got 3 different sections that I need to bring together to create the base. What I want to have is a very sturdy cover, and then I want to have sections where I can add those tip-ins and then also some additional places for pockets. And so I'm going to use this beautiful gray cardstock. I think it coordinates really well with all those different blues, and it becomes an anchoring neutral so that I'm not creating some additional contrast. For the cover, I have my cardstock cut to be 6 high by 10 wide. It's scored at 5, so exactly in half. And for each side, I have 2 of these. And so I'm going to bring these together, and that will create a layered cover with a nice clean finished edge. So I have already added some double-sided adhesive here, and it is just so much easier to work with only one side of the adhesive exposed. So take the backing off of only one side and then come in with a layer of Tombow or whatever wet glue you prefer. Definitely a 2-glue combo is necessary for these heavier, sturdier books. And so I have that added, and I just want to bring the edge of this second piece into the score line so that I get it nice and even and position exactly where I want so that it will fold over correctly. And so once I have that in place, push that down so that it stays even and level. And now you want to remove the backing from this side. And so this is going to become one of the covers, and I have an additional one created with the exact measurements and process. And so that one will be the back cover. Putting this additional layer of glue down and fold that over, making sure that it is nice and straight and even. So you can see how that is going to be a nice finished edge. And so this is going to be our first set of pages. We'll have our pattern paper and our tip-ins for this, but now I want to add a second section that will have enough depth to accommodate the pockets and the inserts that we want to add. So I have 2 of these cut to be 6 high by 10 1/4 wide. It's scored at 5 and 5 1/4. And so that way we'll have enough room inside for all those fun things that we want to add. Let's go ahead and continue on with our 2-glue combo. And you can see that I have pushed over that edge so that I can get it flat right down onto my work surface. That helps me to keep everything in position so that I can get it adhered correctly. So push that down and then bring this to the corner. Make sure it's nice and square and even along the side and the bottom. And then when you open that, this is going to become the first depth in the spine. I do want to have an additional one, but we need to connect these. And so I have an additional piece that is still 6 high by 10 wide, and I'll attach these pages to this so that I can connect these two dimensional sections. If you're right-handed like me, it may make sense to turn that around so that you can get those top corners positioned, and then continue to work along. And then add the additional dimensional section in the same process. Remembering to push that down. Give it some pressure so that you'll have a nice contact while you're working along. So now we have those added. The last piece will be the back cover, and so I have created that exactly the same as the front, and now I just need to bring these two together and our base will be finished. Okay, so now that cover is all assembled, and you can see that we have built in some nice space for our inserts. I want to just go ahead and cover the back while I'm at it. It's easier than waiting for all those dimensional embellishments to be added. So let's flip this over to the back. And I have my pattern paper for this cut to be 5 7/8 and 4 7/8. And so this makes it very ideal if you're using the 12 by 12 paper pads, because you're going to get 4 portions from each 12 by 12 sheet. And so that is perfect. Definitely want to have the back finished so that it looks nice all the way around. Each additional pattern you add will, of course, help to make this more thick and sturdy. So let's work on the first set of pages that you open. These are going to have the tip-ins, and so I have cut my printable and added it to some cardstock. This is the same beautiful gray, and I'm just picking ones I think complement each other. And I did add some additional for a little bit of a flap that I can add between the layers. And so depending on what size you make your printable, you would just want to add 1/8 of an inch for a border, and then some additional that can tuck in behind. And so I have already added my double-sided tape here, and so I can just position this. I have these on opposite sides, so you do want to take into account where your fold is going to land. And since I already have my tape on the back, again, just press that into place. And I do want to come back in with some additional double-sided tape so that I got that well adhered to the base. Because this gray cardstock is lighter, you can add some journaling directly onto it. And that way you can keep those memories that go with your pictures. And I think it helps me to flip my book so that I can have this longer section closer to me. And you're going to get a border of that gray cardstock from the base for the book as well. And so remember that I mentioned that I do want to have a pocket for these sets of pages. And so I am going to cut my pattern paper to be 7 7/8 by 4 7/8. Then I'll bring it to my scoreboard and score it at 5 7/8. So we're going to maintain that same border all the way around. We do want to add a little bit of my Tombow just to the edges here, being careful not to have so much that it squeezes out. If you are doing this as a batch craft, I would probably say you could do all of the pockets first and then have a heavy book to set on it so that you can continue to work along. But for now, I'm just going to hold this in place till it sets up, and then I'll rejoin you when I'm ready to continue adding these to the folio. It was pretty lucky to have some of the patterns that I really liked with the B side very coordinated so that it would make a nice alternate layering pattern. And so I'm just going to bring that to the book, same as I did for the other pages, making sure that I have this centered so I have my nice border. And then of course I have one for the other side as well. I am using the full sheets, and so my pages coordinate, but if it makes sense to you to have it mix and match, then I definitely would recommend that. Makes more sense to get through your stash than to cut into new paper. So here is that additional side. Now the connector in the middle is going to be the same as these two pages, and so I will have those tip-ins added. This definitely increases the amount of space we have to finish this folio, and I get to use more of that beautiful printable. Here is the second page. I will continue to load these pages in with the same measurements and same process until I have this book fully finished. So as you are watching this video, I will share that I have pre-recorded it and it will be going live on Wednesday. We will be at a ceremony for Army's son. He is promoting to captain, and so we are very proud of him, and we will be there to celebrate along with him. So make sure everybody leaves a little love for Army's son down in the comments. So here is the last inside page with those tip-ins. Really lovely paper. I think that is a low contrasting snowflake, so kind of reads as a neutral. You might be able to write on that also if you wanted to include some memories. And now we have the back already finished, so let's continue on. I'll just add my favorite finishing touches. Of course, I want to add a little bit of trim so that I can close this up and keep all of my inserts well secured. So let's wrap that around, and then I'll just tack that into place temporarily with a piece of double-sided adhesive, and then eventually we will add the cover, and so that will be added with the Tombow, and that will be sandwiched in between. So here is the same pattern I put on the back. I just use a little bit of the offcuts to use for layering, and so I will continue to add that with my 2 glues, and then we can add some additional layered dimensional embellishments. Of course, I have a doily here. I always like to have these in the background to help break up those busy paper patterns. And then more of those offcuts here on a raised section. So I'm just going to begin building more and more dimension and more detail. And remember that I mentioned I had to print one of the images a little bit smaller just because there isn't as much space on the cover if I want to layer on a flower arrangement. And so I did use that same gray cardstock, put that up on a double-sided foam tape, and that will go in center. And then I have a flower arrangement created with some flowers from Really Reasonable Ribbon, some die cut foliage, and instead of my regular loopy twine bow, I did a little bit more of a festive stripe on this one. And so this is going to go right along the bottom. I'm going to add that with some hot glue. Now remember I said that I wanted to have inserts for those pockets, so I did print some of these ahead, and now we can tuck those in there as well. Put that down in there. Just go ahead and tie a simple bow here. I always like to add some metal charms, so I think it would be nice to position these just on the side of the image, and of course I'll put those on with string and hot glue. Top that with a button to hide the cut strings. And then last but not least, I'll put some sequins here, as I like to do, to balance those charms and to bring a little sparkle. Add those with the tombow. 2 down lower on the doily, and then 1 up here on the image. I think this would be suitable for any occasion or holiday. Simply change out your collection and your cardstock, and it would be perfect. I think this would be also really good for batch crafting because the measurements are fairly simple, and if you are printing the focal images, you can make as many as you like. So that's going to be all, and I sure do hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Check the links for descriptions for the printable as well as our socials. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye!